Thank you everyone for joining us today. We're just waiting for people to join us into today's webinar, and we'll give it a minute or so as the numbers start rising. You're tuned in to the University of Essex, our University Enterprise Zone, and part of the Space to Grow programme of investment readiness. I see the numbers are rising rapidly, which is always good to see, and we welcome you aboard today. Just give it another minute or so for the numbers to keep going. We know how difficult it is to register and to keep online on this. Well, we seem to have paused at that point, so I think now is probably a good time to start, and we can always pick up later on YouTube as we go along. So, good afternoon, welcome. My name is John Stenhouse and I'm the Business Support Manager at the University of Essex University Enterprise Zone. We're here today with our guest speaker, Simon Atack from Innovate UK Edge, to talk about the Innovation Project Canvas. But before we go down that route, I just want to take you through a few housekeeping rules. This webinar is brought to you totally free of charge and is part of our University Enterprise Zone Space to Grow investment readiness program to bring fresh ideas to your innovation and your business idea. This is being recorded and it will be available on YouTube later after editing. We do have a Q&A, and so please do ask your questions during the course of this webinar, and we will collate all of these and we will be asking our guest speaker to answer these questions as we go along. Please avoid using the chat box because that doesn't get monitored in the same way. So concentrate on the Q&A, please. And please ask your questions. It's your opportunity to learn something today. We will kick off because we would like to know a bit about the audience. And so I'm going to ask you if you'd like now to just answer a quick question that we're going to put forward to you. So my able assistant Josh is going to now ask that question. Josh, over to you.
Thanks, John, and good afternoon, everyone. So you should see a question on your screen now, and a simple question: have you already decided on your investment strategy? And that's a yes or no answer there. And we'll give you around about 30 seconds just to get that answer in. And there's no right or wrong answer here, so don't be afraid to get your answers in.
Please don't be shy.
Just give you a few more seconds, just there's a couple of people I can see there we're waiting on. Okay, thanks everyone. So we'll leave that there and I'll share the results. So we can see the majority today haven't yet decided on their investment strategy. So hopefully Simon's presentation on the Innovation Project Canvas will help you to actually start thinking about your own strategy and using the Project Canvas for that. So I'll pass back to John and then Simon and we'll get started.
Thank you very much indeed, Josh. So I'd now like to take this opportunity to introduce to you, tongue-tied again, Simon Atack, part of Innovate UK Edge programme, represented here today by Exemplars. And Simon is going to introduce to you the Innovation Project Canvas, which we use as an organisation to ensure that pitch decks provided by founders or entrepreneurs are of a suitable standard to be presented towards investors. And investors find these pitch decks really useful indeed, and actually invest. And so the over £6 million, which has been invested through our Angels at Essex platform so far this year, has very much been influenced by the Innovation Project Canvas. So I would now like to hand over to Simon Atack. Simon, the screen is all yours.
Thanks very much, John, and welcome everybody. It's good to have you here with us today. Today, as John mentioned, I'm going to be talking through the Innovation Project Canvas, what it is and what sort of things you need to look out for in the different elements when you're pulling together your plans, either in terms of looking for investment, whether that's from a bank or whether it's from external investors, or whether you're going for grant funding such as Innovate UK funding or other types of grants to support your business and your growth plans. So the Innovation Project Canvas is basically a framework. It's a tool that can be used to help look at all the different elements of your business plan and pull out where there may be weaker areas within that plan so that you can ensure that you then provide the depth and breadth of information and the quality of information that an investor or a grant funding assessment body would be looking for if you're putting your idea and your business proposal forward to them. So in terms of the layout, as you can see there, it's a framework which has different sections. The section which lies on the left-hand side of the page is very much about internal areas within the business plan that you've got. So looking at your particular product and service, what the features are, what the technical feasibility is, things around IPR. And then the other side of the canvas focuses very much on the commercialization element of what you're looking to do with your business plans, such as your market potential, understanding your value proposition, and figures like revenue streams. So what we're going to do is we're just going to delve into each of those sections there. Now, the Innovation Project Canvas can be approached in any way that you feel you would like to as a business. So you can start off with looking at your market potential, or you can start looking at, you know, your team, the revenue streams, what sort of plans you've got. But generally, I tend to find I start working first on what we've got going on with the internal ideas and the feasibility of the idea first, and then start looking at building out the commercialization plan from there. But you can approach this canvas in any way that you feel comfortable with. Okay, so starting off, we're going to have a look at things like the unique features here. So this is really, really important if you're going for funding, particularly if you're looking at innovation funding or you're looking at investor funding. What you've always got to remember is it's not just you that's there in the marketplace looking for funding. It is a competition all the time. So you're competing with other businesses, with other products and models in different sectors. And so you've really got to try and make yourself stand out. So understanding what is really unique and different and disruptive about what your product or service offering is that you've got is really, really important. And it's very important to be able to quantify that and convey that message clearly across to the investors. So you need to consider, you know, what your innovation project is going to produce. You need to think about, is it a new product? Is it a new service? Is there a process change that's going on? Are you introducing or utilizing new materials that are in the marketplace? For example, if you're looking at different types of plastic alternatives, those sort of things. Have you got new methods that you've created as part of the innovation you're working on? Or is the application that you're doing, is that innovative? So you really need to drill down into what the innovation is and why you believe your project is going to produce something highly innovative. Then moving on from there, we've got technical feasibility. And this is really clarifying why you believe it is technically feasible to produce the idea and the concept you've got, which is great, as a product or a service or a process or a material or a method or an application, as we were saying previously. Now, this is really important for the investors because it's also showing that you've got a great idea and a concept, but you've really considered how you're going to take that to market and the fact that it is feasible to actually do. And so some of the key questions that you might ask within this element of the Innovation Project Canvas is, why is it technically feasible to produce the idea as a product and service? And how can you evidence this? Are there functional requirements and design features the market will demand of the idea? And how are you going to achieve these? Do you have the technical capability required either within your team or externally in terms of perhaps subcontractors or partners that you might have working with you in order to complete the development of your idea and turn it into a commercially viable product or service or process? Are there things such as industry standards or technical parameters with which you need to work? So might there be restrictions in terms of the way you operate or added costs that might filter into it or may affect the technical feasibility of the plans? So showing that you've understood and considered these areas is very important. Have you also researched other methods or solutions to this problem, both technical and non-technical, both from the point of view of as your business and what you're doing with taking your idea to the market, but also considering what the competition is going to be? You know, what are consumers or your customers going to use as an alternative, and how does that all sort of fit in terms of your plans? And will it still, given the options that are available in the marketplace and an alternative, make it feasible to have a proper commercial business model with your product or service solution? So other things to consider are also, does the idea comply with the requirements set by law and regulations, and the laws and regulations for whichever country or territory that you're looking to develop your business in? So again, it's depth and breadth of research and information and evidence which is key here. Okay, and then in terms of the next thing that we look at in the elements is the production process. So is it possible to scale the production process to the levels needed to provide a growth trajectory for your business? So can you scale the operations up effectively? Because with particularly with angel investors, venture capitalists, and also to some extent grant funding investors, they are going to want to see that the idea that you've got, A, it's feasible, but also that it can be taken and it can be scaled and it can be grown internationally, so that they can see the return on investment that they're looking for. So whether it's an investor that's looking for a financial 10 times return on the investment that they're putting into your business, or whether it's a grant funding organization that is looking to see an increase in staff in your business, benefits to the economy, growth in your business in terms of sales turnover and profitability. So it's really important to be able to clearly show that something that may, say for example, work well as a concept that's 3D printed, can actually be converted by its design into a fully scalable product that can then be commercialized and distributed. And with this, it's looking at, can you actually map out the full production process? So it's thinking about your production process for commercialization and being able to evidence, again, that you can map it out, and discussing within the submissions that you put forward how it is commercially viable to produce the idea on a large scale. So again, as I say, depth and breadth of information here for your investors or for the grant funders is critically important. So the next thing that we need to consider with the product or service solution that we've got, that we're looking for investment or funding, is intellectual property rights. And again, this is another key area, because this shows not only that you've got something that's innovative and that's different, but it also has real value because you can protect that intellectual property that you've got and you've developed. And for investors and for grant funders, being able to show that you can create barriers to entry for your competition and you are able to protect this innovation that you have is very important. And so having a good understanding of patents, trademarks, copyrights, and the relevant situation they have in relation to the project you're working on, which form of IP protections you're likely to choose to protect your innovation, and whether you're going to need licenses from third parties as part of the development and commercialization plans, and whether you've got confidentiality agreements signed in the ideas phase, that everything's protected as robustly as it can be is really vital. And again, if you haven't got an overview of where your intellectual property sits, where we are now, where you want to be in the future, and how you're going to manage that intellectual property moving forward, then this is a really important area to delve more deeply into. And there's a lot of helpful information that the Intellectual Property Office provides on its website. And there are also as well, if you're going to get very in depth with your intellectual property, is speaking to a qualified IP lawyer. So moving on from the intellectual property rights, we then have a look at the project plan. So it's having a look and seeing how things develop in terms of the structure of the process that you're putting in place to take the concept to commercialization, or to whatever stage you're looking to take it to within a grant funding application. So you have to show a comprehensive research and development strategy, highlight what the major milestones and key activities are needed to be able to complete the project on time, and making sure you've broken down the project into well-defined work packages. So this is very important for grant funding, so that you are able to call off the finances you need at the appropriate stage within the project to make sure that the project is going to run smoothly and deliver the outcomes that you're promising to deliver. And again, having this all detailed down will give a lot of confidence to the investor, and it will give confidence to the grant funders. So considerations as well you need to look at within your project plan is the time frame for getting the innovation to market, and making sure that with all of these elements that you've got in the project plan, that they're actually realistic. Because again, assessors who are looking at this, or investors who are looking at this, they will have a good handle on the marketplace and taking products and services to market, and having things which are as simple as they can be, and that they have confidence that you've put in the appropriate timescales and resources to be able to commercialize the product or service will fill them with confidence. Also, making sure you put into place what contingencies you've got to ensure the project progresses on time as well is extremely important. And use of things such as Gantt charts, which can be added in to your proposal, can be very, very helpful. Okay, so moving on, we've got the concept, we've defined what our unique features are, we've delved into the technical feasibility of the project that we're looking to undertake, and we've found that yes, it's technically feasible, we can do it, and we understand what we need to do to make it happen. We've looked at the production process in detail, and we've defined that yes, the product or service can be developed and scaled once it's taken to market. We've also looked at where the IP sits within the project, and clearly understand our IP, how we're going to protect it, and how we're going to manage it moving forward. We've looked at the project plan, and we've detailed that out. And then the next thing we consider is the risks. And so having a risk register is also very, very important to look at different aspects of the innovation project and where you might have challenges along the way, and then clearly showing how challenging you rate those, and also how you're going to address those when you come across them. So key risk areas are things such as intellectual property competition, might be things like customer adoption and diffusion. It could be technological or technical developments in the marketplace which can affect your projects. It could be costs or revenue streams, which may be a challenge area, or it could be a lack of skills or experience that could affect the delivery of the project. So again, it's very important to be realistic and understand where all the potential risk areas are, and put into place your mitigation plans for those, because you'll get a lot of positive input from funders if you are very realistic in what you're trying to do, and you show you've understood the risks and you're prepared in terms of addressing them. So after we've looked at all of those internal areas, the other thing that's really important to do is, once you've considered, yes, I've got a great unique concept, I can make it, I can scale it, I can take it to market, I've got IP, I've understood my risks, you then want to be able to evidence what market potential is there for your offering. And so with grant funding or with investors, you really need to identify the trend or challenge that's driving this innovation that you've come up with, whether it's creating a new market or it's reshaping an existing market, and how it's going to provide you and the investors with a sustainable business opportunity that they're supporting. So you need to look at the whole macro environment and consider what social, technological, economic, environmental, political, legal, and ethical drivers are going to be the most influential in creating the opportunity for you, and detail where these have impact and how you are adjusting your model to these. You need to consider what the estimated value of the accessible market is. You need to look at the growth of the accessible market. You need to look at the market share you might reasonably expect to win over the next 3 to 5 years, and really consider, when you're putting your proposals forward, what the characteristics of these markets are that you're going to approach, and how you can create a defensible positioning within these target markets, whether it's along the lines of the strength of your IP, or whether it's the speed to market, or whether it's you've got the benefit of already being embedded into a particular market sector, which gives you the strength there. So all of these things are extremely important to consider. And likewise, when you're giving figures for grant funding applications, so say, for example, an Innovate UK grant funding application, the qualification of any figures that you've got are extremely important. And so rather than where we've got a provision of market potential where a lot of people put forward the total available market, this isn't really the market figures that that you need to be showing. You need to be showing what the serviceable addressable market is and the serviceable obtainable market that you're going for, and how many units you can sell over a time period from the ground up, rather than saying, okay, well, there's a 80 billion worldwide market for mobile phones, or whatever sort of sector you're in. So it's very, very important that the investors get the feeling that you've really researched your market, you've provided a market potential by unit figures and financials, and you really know what you're talking about in terms of what you're looking to achieve. Okay, so we've now got a question for you. So we'll let Josh roll that one out.
Thanks, Simon. And just like before, it should flash up on your screen now. So this question is, what key potential risk areas are important to cover when presenting a funding bid? You see your options there, and we also have none of the above and all of the above as well. So I'll give you about 30 seconds just to get your answers in there, and we'll share the results and see how you've all done. Okay, thanks everyone. I can see the responses coming in now. Just give it a few more seconds. You can see there's a few more people who are yet to answer. Excellent, thanks everyone. So we'll end that there, and I will share your results. And you can see 100% of people there. Simon going for all of the above.
Today, aren't they?
Yeah.
Really good. Well done.
Brilliant. So I'll leave that there and hand back to you, Simon.
That's our prize-winning group, that. Right. Okay. Fantastic. So we'll just move on to the next one. Okay. So we've started off, and we've been delving into the market potential. So this is the big picture stuff at the top. You know, this is where we want to go. But then we need more than that. We need to drill deeper and deeper into the customers that we're trying to address. So again, it's taking that big market and it's bringing it down to the customer segments that you are going to target. So who are your customers? Who's going to use your innovation? And users may be different to customers. And how are they going to use your innovation? What's the nature of different target customer segments? And have you defined clearly customers or user profiles, both by characteristics and also by their buying behaviors? Have you visited potential customers or users to align your innovation to their business problems or challenges? So do you really understand the jobs that they're trying to do and how you can help them solve the challenges they have whilst trying to do those jobs. And then going further from that, so we've got the big picture market potential, we've got the customer segments we're drilling into, then we start looking really granular into the value proposition that you've got. And this is trying to clearly provide the answer and explain why customers would prioritize your particular product or service or process or material over that of your competitors. So it's really an absolutely crucial element, this, and one of the most useful things that you can do in business analysis and research is really understanding the customer and trying to understand the customer jobs to be done and how the products or services that you have can help address those. You're asking questions such as, which customer or user will your innovation help to solve? What will it take for the customers or users to experience the benefits of your innovation? What's the customer journey? How does your business model differ from those used by your competitors? And how does it benefit your customers more? So where is your differentiation? And what new characteristics does your innovation offer? So is it more accessible? Is it providing a complementary service? Is it convenient? Does it provide cost reductions? Is customization important? Is ease of use or efficiency a key element that you've got there? So being able to really provide a detailed and comprehensive overview of this is really important. And as well as the innovation project canvas, there's also the value proposition canvas, which is a really, really good framework for doing this. And it's valuable in two ways. The first way is if you're looking at it in terms of new product development. So if you're starting off on the right-hand side with the customer jobs, you're understanding what the customer is trying to do. And then in trying to do those jobs, you start understanding the pains and the gains those customers have in terms of trying to do those jobs. This then informs the products and services that you're creating on the other side, and allows you to develop your products or service solutions with gain creators or pain relievers that directly address the particular challenges and the pains and the particular aspirations or benefit gains that your customers are looking for. And the more aligned you are with solving the pain issue and providing the gains the customer is wanting, the more likely you are to be successful, because you're going to shut out the competition because you are so much better aligned with your customer needs. Now, as well as feeding that information into the product and service development, the value proposition canvas is also great at putting your marketing message out once you've developed your product and service to match the needs of the customer's gains and pains. Because clearly, working across from the left to the right, you are then able to articulate, we have these products or services which provide these gain creators or pain relievers to help you, Mr. Customer, in terms of addressing these aspirational gains or these challenging pains that you've got in terms of doing these jobs that you're trying to get done. So it provides a very, very clear and relevant to the customer marketing message. So this tool is an extremely useful framework to use at any stage of a business in terms of trying to better understand your customers' needs, develop the right sort of products and services to meet those needs, and then clarify the marketing message that you're looking to put forward to those customers so they really understand what you're providing and how it helps them. Okay, so having looked at the value proposition then, the next thing that we consider is looking at the channels to market. So we understand the market, we understand our target market segments, we understand our value proposition. Now it's looking at, have we identified the most effective channels to distribute and inform others of the innovation? So clearly showing how you're going to distribute your product or service and detailing your strategy for getting the innovation into the marketplace and exploiting its potential is key, and something that, whether you're an investor or whether you're the grant funders, these are things that that you want to see in order to be assured that the project is going to deliver the levels of success that you're claiming. Okay, so once you've looked at the channels, the next thing to consider is your competitors. And clearly providing depth and breadth on knowing who your competitors are or who they will potentially be, again, helps to add to the credibility of the bids that you're putting forward or the proposal you're putting forward. So it's things like understanding who else is operating in your market space. Which of the major players in the market could be considered as direct, indirect, or replacement competitors? And this is very important because sometimes we'll get businesses who say we've got no competition, but there's always competition out there. And it may not be direct competition, but there could be a lot of indirect alternatives which business customers or consumers would use as a replacement to what you're offering. So it's very important to consider, not only the direct competition, but also any indirect or replacement competitors that are out there. And also looking at the landscape moving forward in terms of the changes to technology and the macro environment, considering what is going to crop up in the future as well. So not just the competition as it stands today, but where is the competition going to sit in 6 months, 12 months, 3 years, so that you've really got a good scope on this. And also it's looking at the commercial state of the art, which is available today in the sector that you're looking to target, and where you sit in relation to your proposal. Are you trying to match or beat the commercial state of the art, or are you introducing a product or service that is not state of the art, but is disruptive in terms of the way that it's working and entering the marketplace? And then following on from looking at the competitors, we've then got customer relations. And this is all about identifying how you're going to help people find out about your innovation. So how are you going to tell them about your product or service? Or if it's a project that you're getting investment for, like an Innovate UK project, how are you going to disseminate the results of your projects? How are you going to maximize the impact of this communication using channels such as press releases, conferences, scientific publications, workshops, newsletters? What are you going to do? And with that, it's again, the details important. So it's saying, which press releases are you going to make? When are you going to make them? How are you going to make them by? What contacts have you got in that press media? So that it really shows that you've got a clear plan in place and it's really credible. How are the activities in terms of the customer relations going to pave the way for future market entry or new products that you're going to develop along the way? And with the projects you've been working on, if you've got partners that have been involved or you're in contact with, are you going to help by getting them to disseminate the information for you? And are there any conditions or criterias? Is there a period of time that you're not allowed to put any press releases out due to confidentiality requirements? Or are there conditions that you need to put press out in certain areas as part of the contracts that you've agreed? So again, it's very important to understand and to detail all that. Okay, so we've got another question here from Josh. So let's see how everybody's going to do on this one.
Thanks, Simon. So same again, everyone. On your screen now, the question this time is, in terms of market potential, what is the SOM? Is it the serviceable opportunity market, the serviceable obtainable market, the strategically obtainable market, or some other market? So if you choose one of those options, and again, we'll give you around 30 seconds just to get those answers in. Okay, I can see the numbers coming in, so we'll give it a few more seconds just to let everyone get their answers in. I think this is going to be a bit more of a spread of answers this time, Simon, I can see so far. Okay, brilliant. So thanks, everyone. We'll leave it there, and I will share the results.
Right. Okay, so the leading is correct. So it is the serviceable obtainable market.
Yeah, a little bit more of a spread on that one. But yeah, majority going right, which is great. And I'll stop that and hand back to you, Simon.
Thanks very much, Josh. Okay, so here we are again with the framework. So we've looked at the market potential, the customer segments. We've drilled into our value proposition. We've looked at the channels that we're going to promote our product and service and sell it through. We've considered the competitors in detail. We've looked at the customer relations and how we're going to engage with the customers and inform them of what great innovations we've got. And then other things to consider are, as part of the project or as part of the business model that you're putting forward, is the cost structure, to make sure that whatever we're doing as a business model, it's actually making sense financially. So key questions that you need to consider asking when you're putting these sort of proposals together is, what is the estimated total costs of the project? What amount of or level of internal or external funding do we need? What financial investment has been made in the project so far? So again, if you've got investors that you're looking at for funding, if other people have invested in the business, that could be a good sign for them. But also the amount of investment made for the equity given could be a challenge area. So it's important to really sort of consider these things. Likewise for grant funding, if you might need match funding for certain funding in project pots. So again, it's being able to detail that in your submission that's really important. Do you have a breakdown of the costs associated with the project? And have you estimated the relationship of the cost by unit price to that of the selling price for the most dominant customer segment you're looking to engage? And if you're seeking external investment, how are you likely to acquire the match funding? It's also looking at not only this project, but are you going to require follow-on financing at the end of the project? So it may be just a proof of concept project that you're looking at, but the stage to commercialization would require further investment funding. So it's providing them with information of, if you invest in me at this stage, our roadmap to the future is going to look like this, so we can show that the investment you're making for this proof of concept is genuinely and realistically going to lead to a successful commercialization. And in terms of financing, it's looking at how you're likely to finance the remainder of the project and how secure is that financing that you're claiming to have. Because the more secure it is, if you've already had the conversations, you've got the money ready in the bank, the much more likely the grant funders or the investors are going to be keen to support you. And then moving from cost structure to revenue streams, again, this is really important to identify what potential revenue streams that you have for your innovation and what their long-term viability is. So how are you going to make money? Is it going to be through direct sales to consumers? Is it going to be through distribution sales? Is it going to be online? Is it going to be through licensing agreements? How are you going to make your money? And what is your sales price for the product or service or process? And how does this compare with your main competitors? And what sort of model are you using for pricing? So are you using a cost plus model? Are you using consumer-led competitive pricing models? Are you looking at premium penetration, skimming, economy, or even freemium models in terms of what you're doing to attract commercial interest in your offering? Have you also calculated the return on investment your business might expect from the project? And what forms of revenue stream will you be using? So again, digital, asset sales, commission, dynamic pricing, fixed prices, e-commerce, licensing, etc. So again, it's all about the depth and the breadth of the information and the credibility of the information that you can put forward here in terms of evidencing that you have genuine revenue streams that are going to deliver successfully the proposal that you're putting forward. So now we've looked at the whole framework for the innovation project canvas and all the different elements that make it up, that give you a really good comprehensive overview of your business plan and all of the sort of areas that the investors or grant funders will be looking for when they're looking to provide financial investment into your proposition. And it's important, as well as having all of that in place, is to also make sure that within this, you really highlight the quality of the team. And people are the most important thing in your organization. And so really highlighting their skills and who they are, what they can do, what they bring to the party in terms of your business model and your new product service development is really, really important. And a lot of investment, whether it's grant funding or whether it's venture capitalist angel investments, the team that you've got behind you is really critical in that investment decision. So it's making sure that if you've got any gaps in your team, whether it's a skills gap, it might be sales or it might be technical knowledge, that these are filled and addressed appropriately, whether it's internally within your organization or whether you've got external non-exec directors or people who can form part of your team to cover that off. It's really, really critical area, this. So, some of the questions that you need to ask is, what experience is there in the key business areas among the employees within the company? So finance, operations, marketing, sales, product service development. Are there senior people within the business who have experience previously of bringing a major innovation successfully to market? Is there sufficient capacity in the business to keep the project moving to its conclusion within the agreed timescales? And what's the related risk management strategy if there are challenges in that area? Which key external partners will you need to work with to successfully execute the project? And what changes will you need to make to your business processes or systems to accommodate the innovation project? And as per our conversation earlier about IP, what prior experience is there of patenting or copywriting, either within your organization, or do you have an IP lawyer that you have engaged to look after those areas? So the team is critically important. And aside from all of those areas of the innovation project canvas, the other thing that's really important to include is the context and where your business model sits in the environment. So again, reinforcing the key trend drivers, the key market forces, the competitive forces that are out there, and what the strongest industry forces are. And utilizing the steeple model that we also looked at earlier, this is a really, really useful tool for pulling out that information that puts your business model proposition into context. Okay, so in terms of top tips, I would say from the innovation project canvas, if you're looking at either investor funding or grant funding, really read and understand the requirements, particularly if it's grant funding such as Innovate UK calls. You really need to understand what the key criteria is, what the funders are looking for in businesses they want to invest in, what the timelines are for the applications going in, what the scoring mechanisms are, and what values the funder has. Because again, with all of these things, they're looking for alignment. And so making sure that the values that you have as a company and the values that you're putting into the project and reflecting in the project also reflect those of the funders. So moving on from this, researching the funder is key as well. And then with your project proposal, I would say, once you've drafted it all out, it's always good to try and strip it back and then make sure you've refined it. And what you need to do is make sure you've had good time in order to be able to do that as well. So it's best if you're looking at a submission or you're looking to put something forward to an investor, really do take and invest the time in pulling this all together properly, rather than doing it as a last minute rush, because it will make a really, really big difference to the quality and the depth and breadth of what you're putting forward. And that'll give you a really good advantage, because as we said at the beginning, with all of this, it is a competition. Whether you're going in for grant funding, whether you're going in for investor funding, you're competing with other people from other industries with other great innovations. And so you've really got to make yourself cover off all the bases and stand head and shoulders above the rest. Other things that are important are, don't assume. Again, evidence is critical. So devil is in the detail, and the credibility of the strength of your delivery plan is key. If you can actually evidence all of the figures, you know, what the size of your market is, how much you're selling things for, who you're selling them to, why you've got evidence that they're going to buy it, all of those sort of things. So across the board, it's all about the depth and breadth of the information that you're providing. And also other things to look at are removing the rose-tinted glasses. So do be realistic about your proposals and the risks and opportunities that are involved with those. So, you know, it's much better that somebody says, over the next 12 months, I'm going to sell 100,000 units of my product, rather than I'm going to take over the whole of the global market for this product area. Because what investors want to see is that you're credible and that you are low risk because you really understand what you're doing and you've got the figures nailed. Also with the applications, you get a lot of questions that you have to answer for grant funding. So always make sure that you've read the question, and in the submission text, which may be 400 words, 200 words, 1,000 words, that you're actually answering the question that has been asked. And so always double check yourself to make sure, have I really answered what the funder is asking in terms of these questions? You need to be concise in the submissions because you are short of words often, and eliminate jargon. So with some industries, maybe industries like the IT industry, we've got a lot of jargon words that are in there, which people in the industry understand. But when you give it to assessors, you may have a panel of 5 assessors, one which may come from your industry, and then you may have another 4 that don't. And so they're the layman that's reading this proposal that you're putting forward. And if it's got a lot of jargon in it that they don't understand, it's going to automatically put a barrier up for them and switch them off of your proposal. So make it as easy as possible by making it clear, easy to read, easy to understand, and no jargon in there. Other things to consider are being right on the money. So this is being right on the money, not just for the business. So you're getting the right amount of money for what you need to do with the project and your plans moving forward. But it's also looking at the money that's going to be needed in terms of how that sits with the funder and the sort of projects that they invest in. So it's no good asking for 5 million from a funder that has a pot of 10 million that's looking to distribute that pot among 100 different businesses. So you really need to understand where that you've got the right money amount for your business, but also that you're trying to get it from the right sort of pot that has got the capacity to be able to deliver the right money for you. And then also you need to understand what's in it for them. So what is it that the investor or the grant funding body is looking for? So an investor, they might be looking for a financial return out of the investment. So they may be looking for a 10 times return. If you're only giving them a 2 times return, it's not going to be of interest to them. Likewise, for the grant funders, they may be looking to showcase what they've achieved by investing in businesses. So it may be what amount of sales turnover has increased in the business as a result of the investment. How many more people is the business likely to employ over the next few years as a result of the investment? What effect has it had on the wider economy and the wider supply chain that we've got? Is the project that you've got, would that make a good case study? So it's all of these things that are really important to consider, not just your model and the fact that you need money, but how does that sit with the investors that you're looking to get the money from, and how does it meet their needs as well in the jobs that they're trying to do? Regularly and clearly reinforce your USPs and your wow factor within your submission, because it is a competition and you need to really try and stand out. And then, as I said before, make sure you set enough time and complete and submit early. And setting enough time gives you that time to review your document, to let other people look at it, let specialists in particular areas review it for you, and then you can be sure that you've put forward the strongest submission that you possibly can. And then, as I say, use external reviewers and resources as well. So there's some great support out there in all sorts of areas that can really help you. So it's making sure as a business that you're aware of those and you also leverage them as you can, because the help is there. So we've now got another final question.
Thanks, Simon. As Simon says, one more question for today. So this one's on your screen now. And this one always tends to trip a few people up. What is a useful framework for analysing macro environmental factors affecting a business? Is it spire, tower, steeple, or hurdle? And again, we'll give you around about 30 seconds, just so everyone has a chance to get their answers in. You can see the answers coming in now. So thanks everyone who's answered so far. We'll give you around 15 seconds left. I see there are a few more people who need to get their answers in. Don't be shy. Okay, brilliant. Thanks everyone. So we'll leave that there and I will share the results. So the majority going correct this time was steeple, with a small minority going with spire instead, but can confirm it is steeple. So majority of people clocked onto that, Simon.
Right.
And I'll pass back to you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Josh. Okay, so that's given an overview of the innovation project canvas, all of the key elements in it and how it all locks together, as well as some of the top tips that you have in terms of putting together submissions either to investors or to grant funding bodies. Now, as I said, there's quite a lot of resources out there, so do make use of them. There's canvas models, like we've been through here. There's information about the funding providers, and if you talk to the funding providers as well, they can often be very helpful in providing you information you need about the submissions that you're going to put forward. There's the local growth hubs, there's the knowledge transfer network, who again will help you review applications that you're looking to put in for Innovate UK bids. There's specialist catapults, there's the Department for International Trade, who can help with international market knowledge. There's the Chambers of Commerce, you've got industry bodies, libraries, and lots of online resources. And then you've also got Innovate UK Edge as well. And Innovate UK Edge, which is us, we're here to provide fully funded support to businesses that have a innovative new product or service that they're looking to take to market. So we help by providing coaching and mentoring services for businesses to help them look at their strategic plans, look at areas where they're seeking to gain finance or to better understand their IP, or all of the areas that we looked at within the innovation project canvas, and help you just develop your business model further forward so that you can make a greater commercial success of it and get access to the funding and the support that you need. So if you would like further information on all of the areas that we provide, then please do email me, and I'll be pleased to arrange a meeting with any of you to discuss things further. It'll either be myself or one of the colleagues that we have from our client engagement team, but we are always happy to be of help and provide any information that you need to assist your business in its growth plans. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Simon, and very good timing as well. I was going to say questions and answers, but there haven't been any questions from the audience, but just give them a little more time if they want to come forward with any questions. The services that Innovate Edge provide are right across the UK, but your department works, which area do you cover geographically?
Yeah, so we cover the east of England. For Innovate UK Edge, but regardless of that, if anybody comes to us who is in a different region of the UK, we're all part of one big family, so we can just refer you across to the appropriate support in the right area for your business.
Okay, and is that funded support, is that European funded or UK funded?
That comes directly. So Innovate UK is the Department for Innovation, and we are the front end support of Innovate UK, and so that's direct funding that comes through to support businesses.
Okay, do you know, are there any sectors which cannot use that service. I mean, under European rules, there was things like fintech and mining and agriculture and that sort of thing. Have you got any restrictions at all?
In terms of restrictions, we haven't come across a company yet where we haven't been able to help them, but I haven't got the restrictions list on me, John. So, but happy to cross-check anybody who would like further information on that. But as I say, we haven't had a business yet that we haven't been able to provide help to in some way, shape, or form.
That certainly wasn't intended as a trick question. I know that we've actually referred over 30 businesses to your program, and they've all received excellent support. In fact, the feedback we get is absolutely superb, and in fact, they want to stay with you, I think, because it is so good. Because there are follow-on services that you can provide, aren't there?
Yes, yeah. So we have a range of support that we provide in terms of international partnering. We also have a scale up sort of program for businesses that are of the right stage where they're looking at fast growth from a substantial base. So we've got a whole range of things that can help. We also, within our organization, we sit alongside the Department for International Trade. So again, looking at developing that commercial internationalization element, we've got a lot of contacts who can help in that area as well. And likewise, through the Enterprise Europe Network, internationally, we've got a lot of contacts there as well. So in terms of whatever your business challenges are, if you come and speak to us, we'll always find some solution or something that can be of help to you.
It's true to say you're a very well-connected person and in a very well-connected organization. So I hope the audience appreciate the benefits that bringing you to the table actually bring. And of course, if you can't remember how to contact Simon, then you can always contact us and we will refer you on. I mean, there is no wrong door as far as we're concerned. And we enjoy the relationship that we have with Innovate UK. As a leading provider of help and support throughout the country. So just going back to recap, the Innovation Model Canvas, as I said before, is used by us to actually evaluate pitch decks as they come through to us. We all use the same criteria, whether it's looking for grants and loans or whether it's looking for investment funding and the right kind of investment funding, because there are many types of investment funding that you can go for. And that's why the series of investment readiness is here to help guide you through that process, whether you're an entrepreneur just starting out, or whether you're a founder with an established business who want to scale up and do some more innovative products or services, or indeed an investor who wants to know how to spot the right opportunities. So I thank you, Simon. I thank you very much indeed for all your help and support today. And I think they will be very much if they can help everybody in the way that you can. So I am now going to close this webinar. Thank you very much indeed for everybody. We've got one final question to ask you. Josh, would you like to step in, please?
Almost. Thanks, John. And one final question there for everyone. Do you plan to alter your fundraising strategy as a result of this webinar? Simple yes or no. And again, just 30 seconds, and then we can wrap up for today. Excellent. Thanks everyone who's voted so far. Okay, brilliant. Thank you everyone. We'll leave it there. And yeah, I'll hand over to John if you want to say anything else before we close. You're on mute.
I just wanted to say that I'm on mute and to thank Simon once again. Josh, thank you very much indeed for all the technical support today and making sure it runs smoothly on time and keeping me under control. And looking forward to next week's webinar, which will feature another guest speaker for you. So thank you once again. Watch us on YouTube to catch up on all the latest, and we'll see you next week. Thank you and goodbye.